Colossians 3:15. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you were called to peace, and be thankful. Psalm 100. Enter his gates with thanksgiving, and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. For the Lord is good, and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations. Corinthians 4:15. All this is for your benefit, so that the grace that is reaching more and more people may cause thanksgiving to overflow to the glory of God. Thanks be to God for his indescribable gift. And finally, Philippians. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. All right. Top of the day to everyone here. Let me see here. Can I speak at this? Fine. Mic check. All right. Yeah, so this is going to be another series. I think we're going to call it Appreciation Appreciates. And we'll see where it goes. What are we going to learn? All right, what are we going to discover? What are we going to recognize? What are we going to remember? So, we'll go over the scripture real quick. So we had Colossians, right? I'm sure you guys can hear the birds. I'm trying something new. I'm actually turning the gate off. So I had a gate on before, and the gate's job was to minimize background sound. The issue was that if I spoke kind of too low, it would cut out, and it sounded kind of funny. So we're going to see what this does for us. So Colossians 3:15, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you were called to peace, and be thankful. And then we'll add with that one, Psalm 100, 4-5. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. For the Lord is good, and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations. And so in the prior podcasts, we discussed my, albeit limited, understanding of our connection to our source of being. And it might be markedly different than what has been what I consider to be the predominant perspective on what God was for a long time. And the challenge is that ultimately I believe that God is love, and that love is in all and through all. It's omnipotent, it's omnipresent, and it's omniscient, right? So it's in all, through all, and knows all. I can hear all the background noises, like my cat eating right now. So we'll see how this turns out. But with that being said, we've talked about in the energy, frequency, vibration. You can just find all these if you're new here. The energy, frequency, vibration kind of dove into a more scientific approach to understanding our consciousness, and the fact that we're always in the middle of a trinity, multiple trinities, whatever. But and then the Be in Love series really dove into how that can express in our day-to-day. And so there'll be some overlap. I'll mention some things that were talked about in the other cast in case you're new, or just because this stuff's pretty deep. Repetition's helpful, but because it's so deep and complex, we can use all sorts of analogies to really just paint the pictures and bring it home, because I don't see the goal as being ultimately to know all that God is, because if God is the all, and the all is an infinite expanding thing, the minute you think you know it is the minute you stop expanding and you start contracting, right? But we can grow our understanding of our connectivity to it, get a clearer picture of our power, the power of God, which is working through us, and be able to have more harmony in our lives, and truly be able to appreciate this world, this gift that was given to us in ways that I feel is challenging without an expanded awareness as to what you are. Because the predominant way of thinking is that we are these separate individual unit animals that are solid and not connected to one another, and we're just walking around on this rock. And if there is a creator, he may or may not be inside of us or outside of us, or he may not be the nicest guy in the world. He gets angry and judgmental and jealous and all that things by some of the other interpretations. And so my job here is to provide a testimony and a different perspective. You could say, well, if God is in all and through all, what's your perspective, Veritas? Well, ultimately, yes, God is in all and through all. And we are given freedom, free will. And in order to have free will, means you have to have a choice. So to have a choice, you need to have one thing, and then you need to invert that thing. And now you create two poles. And once you create those two poles, you create an infinite amount of choice in between them. You could say, what? What do you mean an infinite amount of choice? How is that possible? Well, so let's see, what's a good way to describe this? Okay. So let's say that I have a yard, and to create the conscious awareness of the yard, I need juxtaposition. So let's say it's a 50-foot front yard in front of a house. Okay. So now the yard is going to be defined by, there's the center of the yard. So wherever it is going to be, there's going to be a center of that yard. And then there's going to be the left side of the yard, and there's going to be the right side of the yard. And when you go to the center of the yard, if you look to the left side of the yard is actually going to be an inversion of the right side of the yard. So everything that makes the right side of the yard, the more you go to the left side, the more it's diametrically opposed to what defines its characteristics of itself. So if you delineate up and down, the more up you go, the less down you're going. And the more down you go, the less up you're going. All right. Now, what's fascinating about this is this is the beautiful thing about life. Or so you say, well, how could God be in me? If God is so powerful and omnipotent, how is God also in me, this little being, this person that I am? And it's because it's like the yin yang. It shows that the yin yang isn't duality. The yin yang is a trinity. You have the yin, and then you have the yang, and then you have the yin yang, which is, you have the center delineating line where they join and come into union with one another. And then you have the yin yang itself, right? So it's more than just a dual thing. But within the black piece of the yin yang is white, and within the white piece is the black. It's just how it works. It's really fascinating. So there's a riddle. If you have a frog and that frog is able to hop half the distance of that 50-foot yard every second, how long would it take the frog to get to the other side? It wouldn't get to the other side because infinite. You say, what? How is this possible? No. That's a finite amount of space. You said it yourself. It's 50 feet. Why am I sounding like Jack Nicholson? I've been in a lot of corny movies. So it's 50 feet, right? Because the way that the creator creates is by, as we said this before, denominating, naming, by dividing. And so what it does, it separates that which seemed to be inseparable. So you basically just keep adding. It just goes on forever. Sorry, my screen went blank for some reason. So that's it. So yeah, so you have an infinite amount of space in that yard, even though it seems like it's a finite amount of space. That's how greater is he within you than he who is of the world. Right? That's how the creator, the infinite creator, can also reside inside of you. Whatsoever you do to the least of these, you do unto me. And it's why the I am can be the most powerful thing in the universe. And it can also be the most lowly thing in the universe. Because everything is an I. The many-eyed God, right? Everything is an I. And what gives someone the quote-unquote power of a deity is their relationship and responsibility. So you are the I am that's responsible for whatever you believe you're responsible for and able to respond to. That's what it is. A heart cell is an awareness projecting itself, better to say expressing. A heart cell is a consciousness expressing itself as a heart cell, which is defined by its belief of what it is and what it can do and what it wants. Ultimately, its responsibility. Its intention is what it's responsible for. Its action is how it is able to respond. And its reaction is same thing. It's the ability to respond, right? And so then there's a heart cell, and a heart cell, then there's a heart, and even though a heart is comprised of a bunch of cells, you say, well, why is the heart cell? That's not fair. Why is the heart cell have more power than the cells? Because I am that I am. I will be what I believe I am responsible for. That's how you get power. With great power comes great responsibility, because with great responsibility comes great power. It's just what it is. It's what it is. It's why you'll find a lot of people that become more aware naturally become more compassionate. Let's think about that for a second. What is compassion? Right? Or an empath. What's going on there? They feel a greater responsibility for others because other people around them, they recognize the fact that those people are a part of them. We're not really reading the minds. You're not like looking into the brain of another person and reading their mind. All minds are joined because it's all one mind. We are in the mind of God, more or less. And what you see yourself as is what you'll be. All right? That's why I've said before, you don't have to choose between selfish and selfless. Doesn't make any sense. What stupid choices? Either be self-ish. Think about it. Ish. Or selfless. It doesn't make any sense. When you're faced with the catch-22, and you have what appear to be two dueling inverted opposites at war with one another, duality, then the answer is, if you can't beat them, join them and create a door number 3. Be self more. That's it. All right. Yeah, so if I'm in a body and I want to see myself at war with everyone else, then I become a disease. An autoimmune disease attacking itself. Right. I don't want to be a disease. So just expand your awareness and realize your responsibility. The greater your responsibility, the more power you'll have. This is what it is, right? But for now, I want to kind of share a perspective of something that's, I don't think I've talked about it in these casts. I took a little break. I like to take breaks for a while and get a whole bunch of new information, really chew on it, practice it, understand it. That way when I come on here, I know what I'm talking about. Although that doesn't mean that I don't channel in the new often in here either, but I guess my foundation is at least solid enough that I don't have to worry about floundering or really even choosing a direction. I can just go. So let's go with this. There are actually charts, and there's a whole bunch of details that I could give you guys of how I'm trying to think if I think I might have already said this in the last episode, but it really explains, like there's the chi rho. I don't know if I talked about that in the last space, but the chi rho is basically the symbol of Christ. Just look it up if you want. CHIRHO. It's a cross with an X through it. And it basically, there's so many clues, but I'm not going to get into those clues. And I don't know how important they are for the listener. If they are important, tune within to the creator within yourself and ask, and that will guide you to what you need to know. I find it to be of value to me, but also we all have different roles. My role is what I'm doing here. And so it may be of a greater value for me to understand some of the complexities of it to be able to do what I do. And that is, and because I don't just do it here, I do it everywhere I go. If there's something I need to say, I say it. And I can meet the majority of people pretty much where they're at because I have such a wide understanding of it. But that's my job. Everybody has different jobs. There are other things that other people will be much better versed at than I am for their role. That doesn't make sense for my role, so but so I'm going to simplify the cross thing. So one way you can look at yourself is you have think of your left side as your past interpretations. Your right side is your future possibilities, right? So you can almost think about it like your left hand is like your past perspectives, right? You got a little character on your shoulder, if you want to look at it like that. And then your right is future possibility. And then your feet will be grounds you into this material plane. more or less, it's what you know, right? In the present moment, right? And then going all the way up to your head, you can look at it like you have a halo on your head. This is for simplicity's sake, guys, right? Because I could go a lot more on the other one. I just don't find that to be very helpful right now. Oh, I did try to do it in another when I was figuring it out. Yeah, I'm not going to go that deep. I want to keep it simple. So the head is where you have the halo, right? And you can look at it like there's a passage in the Bible, let the mind be in you that was also in Christ Jesus, right? And to me, what that means is I could try to navigate this world using the brain in my head, which is extremely limited. It's a storage device that's literally built upon the idea that it is not God. It is not connected to God, and it is separate from everybody else, and it's a solid thing. Very limited, right? But if I have the halo, I can give it over to God, all right? I can say, wait a second, come on. This body is a physical expression of a creator being, which is the I am within me. And it is beautiful creation, but it is a creation, and it is a storage device. And Jesus said, you call me good, I'm not good, God is good. Of my own self I can do nothing, but through me the Father does all things. Now, that sounds kind of weird if you think you're only the body, and that will trigger people's egos, quote unquote egos. I'm not going there, but trigger the small self, the separate self that thinks that it's separate from God. It's like, how dare, why does he say that? I make my choices, I do things. And it's true, you do, and I do, but me doesn't. Me, myself, and I. Me is a receiver, it's a creation, it's an effect. I is the active creator. I do things. I jump, I climb, I create, I make, I build. Me doesn't build. Me doesn't create. Me doesn't do anything. Me only receives. Right? Me could never create I. Only I can create me. And somewhere in the middle is where I find myself. Right? And so that's how I look at it. Even when I'm doing this cast right now, I'm literally giving it to God, giving it to the divine creator. Now, there's different parts of me that have different roles, and they have to work in unison, right? It's a sacred union. Let no man separate what God has joined together. And there's masculine and feminine components and all that. I talked about it in a prior space. If someone wants to listen to it, I keep saying space, a prior podcast. If you want to listen to it, it will give you some ideas. I was still formulating it at that point, getting it as a revelation. I have a clearer understanding of it now, but even with the clear understanding, I like the way I'm going to present it this way, because I just think it makes it nice and easy to utilize it, right? So you can see yourself as the heart, right? So you're the heart, and above you is the Father, right? The heavens giving you information, right? The unknown creator, right? And your feet is grounded in the material world, and that's you being able to see what's in front of your face, right? So you want to be able to have access to the unknown spiritual creator power, right, to navigate your life. But also you want to make sure you have your feet on the ground so that you can be aware. So kind of think about it like being connected to the invisible realm of newness and unknown, but also being centered and being aware of your surroundings, knowing what's in front of your face, right? Because every part of Jesus said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, give to the world what is the world's, give to God, the spiritual, what is God's, and give to me, the heart, the I am center of you, what is mine, right? So give to Caesar what is Caesar's, give to God what is God's, and give to me what is mine. That's you. You're all three of them. And you sit there in that center thing. So we don't want to swing in any, we want to stay centered. I personally have said before that grounded isn't, I used to have an issue with saying the word grounded. I don't mind it so long as I have my head in the clouds and my feet on the ground, right? And I'm centered. That I'll do. That I'll do. Oh, what's the scripture? God says, heaven is my throne and earth is my footstool, right? So if you have your feet on the ground and your head in the clouds, then you're centered. Well, then you're being God. You're unifying both worlds. It's beautiful. Beautiful, right? Okay. So then what I like to do is when I navigate my day, I like to look at it like on my left shoulder will be my past interpretations. Now, I've used a caterpillar butterfly reference with you guys before. It's basically a caterpillar is a caterpillar. It crawls on its belly on the ground. Very limited being. One day, something inside of it says it's time to change. And it goes into a cocoon. In that cocoon process, the cells break down. Actually, let me explain this. So there are cells called imago cells, and imago cells. Some people call them imaginal cells or imagine cells, but they're the cells that will become the butterfly. And when it first starts happening, when the imago cells start replicating themselves to become a butterfly, the caterpillar cells and immune system is like, dude, what is going on here, man? There's like these imaginary cells and they're multiplying and they're invading us. Oh my God, we might die. And so the caterpillar's immune system starts to attack the imago cells and attack and attack and attack and attack and attack. So what the caterpillar is going to become seems like is in opposition to what the caterpillar is, and so the caterpillar part of itself because there's an I am that's being the caterpillar, but it's the same I am being the cocoon, and it's the same I am that will be the butterfly, right? But in that moment, it thinks itself is only a caterpillar. It doesn't understand what's going on, right? So the caterpillar goes to war with the butterfly cells, and you can see this with us when we're awakening. It can be a very confusing time. People call it the dark night of the soul and things like that. People think you're being tested. They're just initiations of you deciding, do I really want to be a caterpillar? Because if you want to be a caterpillar, I live, yet not I. Christ now dwelleth in me. Like, you will die to the old. You cannot put new wine into old wineskins, for they will burst. You can only put new wine into new wineskins, where both shall be preserved. This is true. This is why Jesus said to the three people that came to him, asking him to, like, one of them was like, oh, I got to go help my father. You know, another one says, I got to go do this, I got to go do that. Like, they weren't really committed. And he said, let the dead bury the dead. Oh, that's my heating system. Hold on a second. All right. So, yeah, I had to turn off my heating system. So so basically it's a death, but you don't actually really die. It's more of a resurrection. But yeah, the immune system will attack the imago cells. They keep replicating, and then eventually it gets to a point where you get this caterpillar. Most of it is just goo. It's not even what it once was, and it's now more caterpillar than butterfly. And there's a point where eventually all the cells, it's my understanding, I could be incorrect about this, but that the cells themselves decide to kill themselves, and they go through apoptosis, and they just die. They sacrifice themselves to become food for the new caterpillar. Jesus said, blessed is the lion, the past, the subjective, the animal self, that is eaten by the man, because the lion will become a man. However, curses to the man who is consumed by the lion, the past self, because the lion will still become the man, right? And so it's like, it's kind of what people could consider a battle. I had a little voice through my process that kept telling me it was inevitable. And I realized there was no other force working against me, per se. It was just me. Did I really want to let go of what I thought I was? And it's hilarious how many things I was clinging. Like, basically, whenever I would go through a tough period where I was just having trouble, I was just so sad or angry or irritated or confused or whatever it was always something that I was clinging to, some old energy, thought, value, belief paradigm that I thought served. I really did. That's the reason we won't let it go, is because you'll think that you still, it still serves you. And then you finally realize, oh, it's a double-edged sword. For example, I'll give you one. I wanted redemption. I wanted redemption because as a kid, I felt unworthy, unloved, not good enough, weird, dumb, whatever, all these things. And I wanted to redeem him. But the thing is that I couldn't bring him with me. Because your world is a reflection of whatever you think you are. It's weird, man. It's weird. So I was trying to hang on to him, but what I was carrying, the double-edged sword, was I was carrying the need to validate and prove to myself. I wanted to take him who felt he wasn't good enough. I wanted to use the me that thought it wasn't good enough to prove that it was, and that's impossible. Because in a weird way, he never really existed. It's just a perspective. It's weird, man. He never really existed. It was just a perspective of the I am. I had a perspective. So I wanted to have so that's really what everything is just perspective, right? So if I want to change my world, I change my perspective. My experience is my perspective. It's weird, right? So when you look at it like I am all that is, there is no one else before me. I am what was. I am what is. I am what will be. Right? When you start to look at it from that lens, it's like, pun intended, lens, right? When you look at it from that lens, you realize, oh, how am I going to have a perspective that I'm good enough while also using a perspective that I'm not? If you want to have a perspective that you're good enough, replace the perspective that you're not good enough with the perspective that you are good enough. But that will mean that you're not going to bring the perspective that you're not good enough into the perspective that you are good enough. So you just can't. So one thing like that might be helpful for others is when you go on the journey, just think that as you're transforming into the butterfly, right? Some people say, oh, but once you think you're a butterfly, you're going to stop transforming. I mean, we're probably always in some kind of state of transformation, but even when a butterfly becomes a butterfly, it doesn't stop learning, it doesn't stop expanding. You know what I mean? But there is a marked difference. There is a point when it just becomes a butterfly, kind of like when the stages of a baby coming to gestation. You know what I mean? And then being born. And then, being a toddler and being an adolescent. Like there are stages. And I personally think that it's helpful to, at one point, just finally get to a certain stage where you just become the caterpillar. Doesn't mean you're not going to keep growing and expanding, but you are not what you once were. And it's okay you are not being what you were once being. And that's okay to accept that. Because so long as you continue to hang on to the idea that you're not that thing, you literally won't be that thing to the degree that you think you're not that thing. And that's an important distinction here, is so much in this realm of subjectivity is degrees, right? That's how the infinite can sit inside the finite, is by dividing it into more and more and more degrees. It's like what we do with temperature, right? So you have you say this is 100 degrees. You just make, or you say this is boiling, right? And then you say this is freezing. And now you can literally make an infinite number of degrees in between boiling and freezing by setting up those two inversions of one another. It's pretty cool. So, so one way you can look at it is you can have your old caterpillar thoughts that will be talking to you on your left. They're not evil. They're not out to get you. They're not out to kill you. They're just echoing programs, reverberating back to you from things that you've said in the past. So it's like your subjective consciousness, right? Is just every time you said, I hate dishes, I hate cleaning, I hate paperwork, I hate doing work, I hate driving to work, I hate people cutting me off, I hate idiots, I hate this world, I hate that, I hate that, I hate that, I'm not good, I'm not good, blah, 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 blah. You just programmed into this thing. And so it's literally just an amalgam, perfect mathematically precise calculation of all of the programming that you put into it up until now. However, there is only now, so you are the only one who can tend that garden. And so basically you can go into a process of just continuously correcting them, being present, being centered, knowing that you are in the center. If you lean too much into them and overly identify as them, very, very hard to change them, because you'll think you're thinking, but your thoughts are thinking you, in a sense. It's like there's no discernment because you don't have a choice. Almost. It's like, I hate this. Like, your mind doesn't even entertain the idea that you could possibly not hate that thing, because it doesn't realize that you are in the center. That's just a voice from your left. And eventually what happens is you just reprogram the left, and then it just starts repeating back to you the new things that you put into it. It says, I love doing dishes, right? But for now, for the sake of this game, many of us have created a self that was extremely separate from the creator part of ourselves, from one another, like just very, very limited perspective. So it's going to seem like the devil, right? Because we lived backwards, right? And lived backwards is the spelling of devil, so just you got to reprogram it, right? And then the other interesting thing is, so you have your left side is your past interpretation. Your right side is going to be your future self. And this is important, right? Because some people will say, oh, be present. Yes, I am very present, but I have to understand that I'm in a relationship with future. I have to. And what you give, you get. So what I am doing now, relative to the degree of love I'm giving towards my future, bounces back to me now. Immediately. You can literally feel the energetic exchange when there's something you're supposed to be doing and you don't do it. And one of the things I think was a misunderstanding for me in my spiritual practice is like, I don't need to do anything. You know what I mean? I just need to find peace and ignore those feelings because those are negative, right? That was just future me, telling me, saying, hey, bro, you want this for me, and you want me to be safe or happy or whatever, and you're not doing anything for us. So, so it's like everything is karmic, and it multiplies. So, and we're going to get into that with the appreciation thing. What do I got? 37 minutes. So when you are doing things in alignment with the greatest good for your future self, you'll get back. You'll feel that energy come back to you. You'll feel satisfied when you're working. You'll feel satisfied when you're doing chores. You'll still feel satisfied when you're cleaning, because you're doing it out of love for your future self. So just kind of look at it like that, like it's a relationship, right? Same thing with the relationship to your past self. You don't want to hate the past self. Appreciate it, accept it. It's just doing exactly what it was programmed to do. You can even marvel in its beauty at how perfect it is, because it's perfect. Whatever it's saying to you is a perfect calculation relative to everything that's been fed to it. Like, it couldn't be any more perfect. It's God's creation, right? And And so you could say, well, if it's so perfect, then why would I want to change it? Because it was perfect. That Jesus said, it was said to you this, I now tell you this, right? It's just change. It's just how things work, right? The night was the night. The winter was the winter. But the attributes of the winter don't make sense in the summer, because the attributes of the fall don't make sense in the spring, but they all have a role. The fall, the trees drop their seeds, their acorns and things like that. And the winter clears out the material that just no longer serves and makes room for new growth in the spring for the acorns that were planted, and they grow up, and then the showers come. And, everything has its role, and everything has its part. And so we can appreciate, respect, and love your past self, and just correct it and say, that was then, this is now. That's one of my favorite things to say. That was then, this is now. If you look out at a world and you say, yeah, but how could this world become love? How could heaven come on earth? Look at the past thousands of years. Humans have been barbarian. Don't worry about that. That was then, this is now. And the more you transform yourself, the more you see yourself go from caterpillar to the butterfly, and you marvel at just how incredible the transformation was, how you are not what you once were, but how at one point in time in your life you would have thought it would have been impossible to become what you now are. Like, you couldn't even have imagined it. And as you see those transformations within yourself, you will begin to see them, if you haven't already, more and more in other people. And as you see them more and more in other people and yourself, you'll develop and grow your faith that if you can change to this degree out of nothing, who's to say the whole world can't? And it is happening. You are not the only one waking up. I am not the only one waking up. We are one body waking up, because it's time, right? And so going back to Colossians 3:15, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you were called to peace, and be thankful, right? So I would suggest this. So think about the cross of yourself, right? So your feet are your grounding into the material present moment, and what's in front of your face, right? In the material world. Let's say and then your heart, right? And then you have your halo above your head that connects you to the mind of the universal mind, the creator mind of the unknown, right? Whatsoever you shall ask for, you shall receive if you ask in my name, but you have not asked in my name, ye ask amiss. The name of Christ. It doesn't, in my opinion, mean you got to say, Jesus, save me, Jesus. His name wasn't even Jesus. You got to remember too that there's something that was happening. During the night cycle, there's a force, and that it's a parasitic force, that it's the lie. What's that scripture? For they recognize the truth of God as a lie, and they worship the creature, the creation, not the creator. They knew the truth of God as a lie. And that's just how it is. That's the night cycle. That's why Jesus told John, in the book of John, quick, we must heal and do our works while it is day, for we can only do our works when it is day, not when it is night. And he wasn't talking about daytime. He was talking about a day cycle, right? God's day is 1,000 years. This is why when the Christ, the truth spirit, the awakening spirit, it reigns for 1,000 years. That's why the devil's thrown in jail, so to speak, for 1,000 years. Ever wonder that? Why does God only throw him in for 1,000 years? It's because there's day and night cycles. And so it's not really a personification, or it's a force. There's a force of truth. There's a force of lies. You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. The truth is the truth, right? The truth does not necessarily need a lie to exist, although the lie does help define the beauty and give glory to the truth. That's a really weird thing. So truth does not need a lie to exist, but the lie's existence give glory to the beauty of the truth. However, while truth does not require a lie to exist, A lie whose sole purpose is to be a parasitic force that corrupts said truth requires the truth's existence for itself to exist. Because if there was not a truth to corrupt, if it corrupted the truth too much, well, then it's not. Then the truth, if it can't destroy the truth, because if it destroys the truth, it can't destroy the truth. But let's say it could, it couldn't exist because its definition is to be a corrupter of a said truth. So a lie is a corruption of a said truth, right? So once, if it was, and it can't, was able to destroy the truth, then it wouldn't be a lie, and by its very nature, it wouldn't exist anymore, right? So it requires the truth to be in existence, and this is why you can look into the Bible or look into any spiritual thing, and you can find, because you have truth and lie, two inverted opposites. Remember we were talking about at the beginning, that's what gives you free will, right? Choice. Truth, lie. What's best for you, what's worse for you. What's greatest for you, what's least greatest for you. That's it. And so you were given freedom. Freedom to choose. One choice. Truth or lie. What's best or what isn't. Being God. Along with everyone else. Or not. Being separate from God. And that gives you an infinite number of frequencies and degrees to choose from. However, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you believe that it is possible that in any given moment you can make the worst choice for yourself? Do you believe in any given moment that you could create the biggest lie to share with yourself or others? Okay. Well, if you can believe that, then you must be able to believe the opposite. That you can give and receive the greatest truth. That you can make the greatest choice. And if you can make the greatest choice now, you can make the greatest choice in the next now, and the next now, and the next now, and the next now. That's what it is. It's this realization that you are connected to a universal mind that in its loving grace has given you freedom of choice without the lie as a possibility. Without the worst case scenario as a possibility, you would not be free. You would be underneath that of a spiritual tyrant. You couldn't be conscious. But you were given freedom. Freedom to choose. Interestingly, however, because you are naturally by birthright free, the truth came first. The Creator came first. All you did is allow a parasitic lie, a veil, to go over your eyes. Now talk about corruption. In the Gospel of Thomas, they asked Jesus, they said, Jesus, should we circumcise our kids? And he said, if your mother wanted you circumcised, you would have came. I'm sorry, if God wanted you circumcised, you would have came out of your mother that way. True circumcision is of the spirit and is highly profitable. It's the removal of the veil over your eyes, over your head. Right? That's what circumcision is supposed to be. You want to talk about mockery? And that's what that other force did. It makes a mockery. Mockery. But when you get ears to hear and eyes to see, you can now see the truth. Because, remember, the lie needed the truth to exist. So we have the eyes to see. And so we will share Scripture in a new light for others. It's beautiful. So just remember that if you find yourself in a tough situation and you have a voice, try to get centered in your heart and ask yourself, am I loving, accepting, appreciating, and correcting gently my past self interpretations? Right? Am I loving and appreciating and giving value to my future self? Am I loving my present manifested world in front of me, my feet, right? And am I loving my creator within, that universal mind that connects me to everyone? And Jesus said, love God first, right? And that's where I turn to the creator within, and it helps me love. And he says, love God first with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. Then you can, he doesn't say this, but I'm adding, easily love yourself as your neighbor. Because if you don't have the access to that unknown creator force, if you still believe you are separate from a creator, then you will, to the degree that you believe that, be imprisoned in that character you've created. In the world you will find tribulation, but be of good cheer, for I have transcended the world. I am in it. I am not of it. Okay. So we're going to wrap up with a couple more of these scriptures. Psalms 100. Enter his gates with thanksgiving, in his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. For the Lord is good, and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations. Yeah, and we're going to dive more into this on the next episode, but yeah, we're like, I wanted to fill in some spaces with this one first, but yeah, with Thanksgiving is everything. And we're gonna we'll dive into this one more. But let me go to this. So Corinthians 4:15, all of this is for your benefit, so that the grace that is reaching more and more people may cause thanksgiving to overflow to the glory of God. So the word God, by the way, is an Old English spelling of the word good. They only used one O. You can call it whatever you want. Now, I know the thing is, when we hear the word God, we have so much. There's some of the mockery energy has been blended in there, and we think God is a dude in the sky who hates us, right? Demands sacrifice of people or animals to atone for the sins, which is just absolute insanity. That was then, this is now, right? But for me, God is a universal mind, and it's a selfless force that just gives of itself forever. Everything. It's the thing that gives me the ability to think. Where did I come from, man? I know that the I am within me is a spiritual being that's infinite and eternal, and it cannot die. I know that. You say, how do you know that? I cannot die, because what defines me as an I is life. I am life. Those two words are defined. That is life. I am. I couldn't die any more than the truth, than a lie could completely destroy the truth. Right? When, one of the things that I didn't want to let go of was specialness, guys. I didn't want to let it go. And I started feeling like I was getting all these gifts. I had the ability to channel in new information. I could... we're not supposed to talk about what we can do, but do all these things, and oh man, I got to redeem little Veritas, and now I was so special. I'm the hero of the story, blah blah blah. Sounds so good. It's a temptation. Because the minute I think that the little kid did it, I'm serving the little kid. I'm going to use the little kid to navigate this world. It's a trap, right? No, the creator does it all. The creator through me does it all. And as long as I remember that, and I stay humble to that, I have access to that. Now, the creator is being me, But me can't be the I, but I can be the me. And that's cool. That's cool by me. Right? Because of my own self, I can do nothing. Right? My old self is, and like I wouldn't be able to change anything. I wouldn't be able to recreate, like have recreation. It's funny, kind of funny too. Recreation, right? Like rest, right? Rest in Christ. And so that's what I do, man. More and more is just turn it over and say, hey, man, look, I know that whatever force put the stars in the sky and me here out of nothing is insanely powerful. And it can do anything. It can rain, it can put sun, it can give me good times or bad times. But it's selfless, so it's up to me. I have the freedom to choose. What do I choose? Do I choose to make the worst choices and depend upon a very limited aspect of myself to navigate this crazy world? Or do I choose to put that childish thing down and accept that greater is he within me than he was of the world, and unto him who is able to do exceedingly and abundantly beyond all that we ask or think, he that worketh in us. Right? And then Corinthians 9:15, thanks be to God for his indescribable gift. And finally, Philippians 4:6, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. And yeah, it transcends all understanding, right? So I'm going to read this one again. And maybe it'd be helpful if you kind of imagine that cross aspect of yourself and combine that with some of the other things that we've discussed here. And ask. Seek and ye shall find, guys. I'm telling you. Ask. Right? Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, every moment, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving. So with thanksgiving, the reason appreciation is so I'm gonna dive into more about like the actually giving appreciation to all of those parts of the cross, but we're running low on time. But for the Creator, why are you giving thanks? Because we're in a mirrorverse, and the way that you look at things, if you look at your past self with lack, if you look at your future self with lack, if you look at your present reality with lack, if you look at your unknown possible creator, if you look at your creator in lack, it's going to reverberate back to you. That's why Jesus said, if you reach out with your hand full, you will receive more than you have. If you reach out with your hand empty, you will have what little you have taken from you. Appreciation is saying to that thing that you are looking at that you are in a state of abundance, and that abundance will radiate through you at that object, whether it's a spiritual object, a mental object, an ideologic construct, or a physical thing. It will go through you first. You cannot give that which you have not already received. You cannot give that which you have not already received. So in the action of giving to something, you have already received it, or you would not be able to give it. If you are able to provide warmth and comfort to a friend who you are acting as a shoulder to cry on, rest assured you've already been given the gift to be in a position to do so. Seek to give to give. Because this universe is not give or take. It is give and receive, and it always has been. But the corruption, the delusion, the lie, the parasitic force, the thing that made a mockery of the idea that anything had to be taken, is what created the perspectives that we are clinging to. So many are clinging to. Did anything take itself into existence? No, it was given existence. Period. Where? From nothing. Everything is given. Everything is given. Yeah, it said, give the glory to God. Can you give or receive pride? If everything is given and received, can you give pride? Can you receive pride? No, you can only take it. The idea of taking is a delusion. You can only be given the experience of feeling taken from, but still given. Give and receive. What thou giveth, thou shalt receive. We are in a mirrorverse. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. You're thankful because you know you're already going to receive it. You're operating from a place of abundance. You realize that this creator, the you that is the receiver, the creation, was created. And it didn't have to do anything or earn anything to be created. It was given. So what we're doing here is we're reinterpreting our understanding of the creator. Because the creator, as agape, unconditional, undefined, limitless, needless, selfless love, will be that which you believe it to be because of how giving it is. So as you change your interpretation of that creator source from one of either non-existence, as Nietzsche said, they killed the creator. Creator is dead. So that's not very helpful if you want to navigate this world, to be cut off from the source. But nor is it helpful to have an incorrect definition of a being that has a personality that has some of the lower base aspects of what humanity is purging, such as anger, jealousy, wrath, and all that stuff, right? So we're reinterpreting, recognizing the creator source to be what it is: infinite, intelligent energy that is the most selfless, most powerful, most and only loving force in existence. And as we change that interpretation from one of fear, uncertainty, or doubt to appreciation, appreciation appreciates. Appreciation appreciates. What you give, you receive.